If your firm feels one good decision away from a breakthrough, then this is for you. We're hosting our first mastermind of 2026 in Phoenix on February 26th and 27th. And it's 2 days designed to actually move your firm forward and grow who you are as a leader. Day 1 is a full day of hot seats where you break into groups and work through the real problems in your business. Day 2 is our wellness workshop featuring sessions that help you boost your energy, lower stress, and think more clearly. We have Jocelyn and Aaron Freeman, hosts of a top 10 marriage podcast and masters in psychology, teaching relationship skills that you'll use at work and at home. A lunch and learn on habit formation with Tyson, and more. View the full event details and grab your seat at maxwellevents.com.
Get ready, because here's your host, Tyson Mutrix.
I want to tell you about a really interesting story that I had last week, a couple weeks ago. So the day before Thanksgiving, I bought a new car, and it's one of those things where I bought a Tesla because it's got the full self-driving, and the technology is just absolutely amazing. I can drive from door to door and zero interventions for me. It's absolutely amazing. So part of this story is I'm thinking, okay, what do I want to do with my trucks? I really love my truck, and Tesla didn't really give me a very good offer on the truck. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll trade it in through Carvana or CarMax, or maybe I'll sell it independently. And then I had this idea, well, maybe I could keep it. I can park it at the office. I can even put some signage on it if I wanted to. Don't know if I'm going to do that, but I could just rent it through Turo. And I'm like, oh, maybe this is the way. And I talked to my cousin, and my cousin's like, yeah, I make decent money on Turo. I'm like, okay, well, this could be something. And I go to put it on Turo, and there's a recall. And so I'm like, all right, apparently you can't rent a car on Turo with an open recall. So I call the Ford dealership, and I call to get it in to get the recall taken care of. And I'm on this call with this, I guess, rep. I don't know what her actual title is, but she's absolutely amazing. I'm talking anticipating my questions. So she is answering my questions before I can even, get to them, because she's already covering everything, extremely detailed, very empathetic. So she's all the telltale signs of a great phone person, right? Just really amazing. And I'm to the point where I am like, wow, can I try to hire this person? So I start to say, it's at the end of the call, like the call is actually done. We're done. And I say, hey, can I ask you a question? She says, sure. I said, you are phenomenal on the phone. What is there some sort of phone training that you've been through, or that they put you through at the dealership? Because you are really phenomenal. She said, no. She's like, I've just been doing it for 20 years. And so I really enjoy doing it. And we have a nice little chat about all that. She asked me what I do. And I told her, I was like, the reason I'm asking is because I'm always looking for really good phone training. And because we have a lot of our people, they're remote and they're all over the country. And I'd love to be able to, get them some phone training. So very abruptly, she says, it was almost like someone was like listening in on the call. It was interesting. She says, can I get your cell phone number? That way you can get, text alerts. I'm thinking, sure. Okay. It was just an abrupt point in the conversation. It was really interesting. Little did I know that she was texting me at the time. I didn't see it because she and I were talking. I wrap up the call, and she sends me a text, and the text is asking me if we are hiring. And so I'm going to read this to you. She says, hi, Tyson. I hope this isn't weird. My name is, I'm not going to say her name on here. We just spoke. I set your service appointment for, I'm not going to say the dealership name. I want to inquire if your job is hiring. And it was a really interesting experience for me, because I went from thinking, okay, this person is perfect on the phone, clear communication. She is really confident without being pushy. She's able to build that instant rapport. And the moment I read the text message, and especially the moment I realized that she sent it while we were on the phone, like everything changed for me. My whole thought process about how good of a candidate she might be and how good of an employee she might be completely shifted. And that's where I was kind of blinded by that first impression. And I think sometimes in the hiring process, we get blinded by that first impression and how we can tend to overlook other things because of how good of a first impression. That's why we have a pretty thorough hiring process because of that one thing. And but it is really interesting how she really screwed it up, because I would have totally tried to find a position for her had that not had happened. It's kind of like that Robert Cialdini principle, the principle of liking. And he says that people who we like influence us until a breach of professionalism breaks the spell. That's really what happened. It was that she had this great initial first impression. The professionalism was all there. She had met all those benchmarks, and then she just in an instant, she broke that professionalism, and it really just kind of ruined things. And if you think about the bad hires, I wonder how many of those bad hires you've had are because you've been put under the spell of that first impression, and then you ignore all the red flags along the way. We've all been guilty of it. It's one of those things where we've all done it. We there was one thing that we liked about them, and we ignored all the other things. I hired a friend of mine because even though I knew all of the red flags, still there were certain things I thought, okay, this could work out, and ignored all the other ones. So we have to be very careful about those interactions and how they can really affect us in the hiring process. It was really kind of interesting because I've had this conversation with Becca. I've had this conversation with a few people though about this conversation because it was very perplexing to me. And it wasn't, I've had some time to think about it since. I was so confused by the interaction because I'm thinking like, okay, would I hire this person still? Like I really kind of went back and forth because the candidate she was so good. I can't call her a candidate. I guess she's technically a candidate now because we've not turned her down, and she's even sent me her resume, and she has all of the pedigree, I guess, of a good candidate. But it seems like she's lacking that character. And something I was telling Becca, like, because I have that question in my mind about it, it's that she can never work here. It's one of those, well, she just, that one thing, that character part of it, she just can't work here because of that part of it. If you're on the clock, because part of this is like, I have no problem with her reaching out, none whatsoever, and inquiring. I have a lot of pause about the whole idea of her using company data to do it. But if I set that aside for just a second, if she had maybe texted me after hours or something, or shot me an email, maybe, or even if it was during business hours, but the fact that it was during an actual phone call that she was having with me while she was getting paid by another employer, that is where that's where it really was icky. I felt really kind of icky about that. I was having another conversation with the client actually just a couple days ago, and we were talking about how she's worked at a chain restaurant for 42 years. Okay. So there's this one particular, as a server, she's worked there as a server for 42 years at this particular chain restaurant. And she's talked about how, there's been sort of a shift in hiring and employees and all that. And it was kind of interesting because she was talking about how it's gone more of like, what can I do for you? And it's more of what can you do for me mindset. And so I kind of got that. I've kind of sort of had a chance to kind of process all of this. And it does seem like that person I was talking to, maybe she was more of the, what can you do for me? Leave you on the drop of a hat. And I'm also not blinded by the fact that there are a lot of attorneys, a lot of business owners have this whole idea that you almost like you own the person and you control the person. And I don't have that mindset at all. I think that that's kind of a ridiculous mindset, because the reality is that you could fire that person at any point. And so I think that if we're being fair, we can't have that whole, can't really get upset whenever someone, decides to leave, like that. I think that's just that's a natural part of owning a company and owning a business. But you also have to understand that they can on a drop of a hat, leave you at any moment. And the way they do it matters. And I don't know if this is maybe something we could add to some of our questions in the hiring process about how you left and how you informed your employer. I had a really good conversation with a mastermind level guild member just yesterday, and we were talking about how he wanted to give one of his local firms, I don't know if they're considered a competitor or not, but he's as a professional courtesy, let them know that he was, was going to make a job offer to a certain candidate. And the conclusion we had kind of come to was wait until she accepts the offer. And because you don't want to hurt her job prospects, because the way you do things does matter. Right. And he wanted to make sure that they knew, hey, I wasn't poaching. She applied here. And I think that's a wise decision that he wanted to do that. But ultimately the way you do it matters. The wrong way would be, reaching out in advance and then getting her fired. And that could make it way worse. I think doing it after the fact, after she's, accepted the job, doing it that way, just as a courtesy, and making sure that the candidate knows to not, put in her 2 weeks notice until after he's had a chance to make that phone call. All of that, the timing of it matters too. A big part of this is timing. So when to do certain things. And to me, it shows whenever she texted me in the middle of the phone call, it just showed lack of judgment. And judgment is really important with what we do. So there are little things that we can look to in this whole process to test certain things, even if it's not technically part of the process. But looking to her judgment, it seemed like a very poor decision to do that. And I do wonder what other people think, because that's why I've run this by so many people since, because I was thinking, well, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit. And I don't think I am. After having a chance to kind of think about it a little bit, I don't think I am. I think that I'm on the right track. There's just right ways and wrong ways of doing things. And I just don't think she took the right approach. I'm very sad by it, because I really wanted to, in my mind, I think where I struggled with it was I really wanted to try to find a way to hire this person because she was so good at her job. But then you start to question her judgment and maybe even her character. That's where it's like, that's a deal breaker, because you're looking at you're using words like judgment and integrity and professionalism. She had all the professionalism until she broke it. I think that she did break some integrity there, because she's getting paid by another employer and trying to, using that as a way to get another job. Use really poor judgment, self-control. There's just lots of things. Having that, reading the room, having that boundary awareness, really important. So it does remind me of that Stephen Covey quote. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. The main thing for her at that time was to get my appointment scheduled and taking care of the customer. Okay. And she forgot about the main thing. She made the main thing her. And the main thing should have been the customer. And she forgot that part of it. So yeah. It was a really interesting conversation. Hopefully you get something from this. I think that the main thing is to recognize that you could be blinded by those first impressions, but you have to start to think about things like fit. Is there a good fit? Are they going to be a good fit with the firm? And she checks most of the boxes, but not those most important boxes. And like having another thing to kind of think about is like having like a vision of not a vision, but sort of an idea in mind as to the ideal person that you weren't working in your firm. Like, so we're looking for peeps, looking for the person that have passion for what we do. It's one of those things. I don't know if that person would have had a passion for what we do. She definitely had energy, and she has the ability to energize others. That she has that stuff. She can execute, right? So she's got that edge that we're really looking for. So those are things that she met many of the boxes, but when you kind of go that next level deeper, does she have that character that we're looking for? I don't think so. I really don't think so. And having that judgment it's so important with what we do. Really, really important. So, but that's all I have for this week. It's one topic. One topic I wanted to talk about, this story, this interaction that I had that was just kind of a really interesting thing. And so plan on doing a little bit more of this. We're talking about each week about some interactions that I've had or some decisions I've had to make and kind of assess those from a business standpoint. So that's what I plan on do. But just to kind of wrap things up, like, first impressions matter. They really do. But but second impressions are usually the ones that reveal the truth. So keep that in mind too. Okay. So first impressions, they definitely matter, but keep your eyes open for those second impressions. Another one is hiring intuition. I think it's one of the most undervalued business skills that you can have. So we'll definitely work on that, because or have someone in the firm that is really good at that. Really, really important. Remember, like, professional boundaries. Those are things that create the trust with your clients, with your referral partners, with other employees. So that does matter. So being able to maintain those boundaries is important. And then listen to that weird gut feeling that you have. It's usually right. It definitely is. And if it feels a little icky, it probably is a little icky. So that's all we have this week. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Go out and crush it. We will see you. See you, buddy.